A Christchurch defence lawyer whose client was rushed by gang associates during a court appearance this morning thinks industrial action by court staff is putting people in danger. Daniel French was pleading guilty to firearms and cannabis charges when the men who have a beef with him over the death of another gang member bolted over a barrier and tried to attack him. His lawyer Liz Bulger had anticipated trouble, but here's the thing, the court staff are locked in a pay dispute with the Ministry of Justice, so they've withdrawn some services, and that meant that her client was not able to appear by video link. Instead, he had to be there in person. Liz Bulger picks up the story.
The defendant was in the dock, and I was in the process of dealing with his appearance, including dealing with bail issue and name suppression, etc. And then all of a sudden behind me there was a bit of a commotion, and next thing, 2 or 3, seemed like more at the time, people came over council's bench and made their way towards the dock. One of them got on top of the glass partition. I didn't see whether he made contact with the defendant. A couple of others were brought to the ground before they got to the dock. So 3 arrests made, 3 appearances in court this afternoon, and 2 of them ended up with 3 months imprisonment for contempt, which is the maximum.
So basically they were going for your client?
Yeah. That's certainly how it looked to me.
Liz, did you feel unsafe?
Well, I think one of the things it did do was expose to all of us how unsafe the new courthouse is. I've always thought it's unsafe because the public are very close behind lawyers and other people in the body of the court, and it was a pretty short distance between the people who were sitting in the front row and the dock.
Did they have to clamour over anything? Was there any physical barrier stopping them getting to you?
Well, there's a bar between the front of the public gallery and the backs of the lawyers who are sitting in the back row, which is where I was sitting. I suppose a tall person could just about step over it, but there's no other barriers. And I understand, I didn't see it, but I understand that one of the people actually leapt over the bench that I was sitting at next to me, missing me by a narrow margin, but I wasn't conscious of that at the time. I've only been told that since.
Were these gang members?
That's my understanding.
Okay. So how did you end up with this situation?
Well, my client was always going to appear in person because there were pleas to be entered today, and so I wanted him to appear. But when it became apparent that there might be trouble, I wasn't able to request the court for an AVL appearance instead, because of the industrial action which is going on at the moment.
So Liz, to be clear, you would have applied for him to appear in court via a video link, so he wouldn't actually have to be physically present.
When I became aware that there could be trouble, that was my option. I could have done that, except that the industrial action in place at the moment includes a ban on AVL appearances, so that application would not have been granted.
So in your view, is that industrial action now placing people in danger?
Well, it did this morning. The standoff, whatever's happening between the ministry and the staff, the situation was such that people were in danger. There were people who were in the back of the court who were completely unrelated to my client's appearance. There was a big police presence. There's no doubt about that, because tensions have been running high in relation to this matter. But certainly this morning was the worst example of behaviour like that in a court that I've seen in 31 years in practice. And in sentencing one of the people this afternoon, Judge Saunders said it was the worst that he'd seen in his time on the bench. So that gives you a measure of what a bad situation it was. So in answer to your question, yes, I think people were in danger this morning. It could have gone very bad, but for the very quick actions of the police who were present and the court security staff, they were fantastic.
Do you have concerns that, well, there could be a repeat of this kind of scenario while this industrial action is on?
I guess if a similar situation arose, yeah, it definitely could be repeated in any court in the country. You know, one of the people ended up face down on the ground in handcuffs, not that far from where the judge sits. You know, it was a bad situation, and you know, people were really shaken. There were some young lawyers who were in court with me this morning, and I have to confess I was quite shaken as well. Usually that sort of thing, you know, you take in your stride, but no, today it wasn't pleasant for anybody, that's for sure.
So what needs to happen? Do the ministry and the union need to get together and sort themselves out?
Well, I think everybody involved in the court system, right up to the Chief District Court Judge, is of the view that with the current disruptions, and maybe, you know, this matter as well now in the mix, everybody would like to see a resolution, and sooner rather than later.
That is Christchurch defence lawyer Liz Bulger. And the Law Society agrees that the industrial action by court staff is making courts unsafe. It's urging PSA members and the Ministry of Justice to come to a resolution. But the PSA rejects the claims that the courts are being made unsafe by this industrial action. The union says if security was a concern in the Christchurch District Court today, then the judge could have cleared the court and prevented the public from being there.